lifetime. Anne is asking, refresh my mind. Did you guys look at the claims that Spain was a progressive and enlightened paradise because of the Moors and Islam, and that that the Spanish preferred the Moors to their own kings and queens, as Muslims frequently say? Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. So there's a whole bunch of claims here. We need to cut them in pieces. Did you guys look at the claim that Spain was a progressive enlightenment paradise because of Moors and Islam? Okay, so Moors are either Arab or African Muslims that lived in Spain. Well, not lived in Spain, but that were from North Africa, and also went to Spain. Some of them. So basically North African, black or Arab North African Muslims, right? That's what, and that would be Moors, right? And as Islam progressed through North Africa and went all the way to Spain, the vast majority of the Muslims, actually, yeah. I think the whole definition of who gets to be a Moor and who is not is like kind of disputed, right? Like a lot of people assume that Moors are all just black Muslims from at that time, but I think like if you there's a distinction between Arab Moors and black Moors. So let's just call it North African Muslims. Okay, I don't know the exact definition of who gets to be a Moor, but the fact that during the golden age of what they call the golden age of Islam, I have a problem with that term, but that would be a discussion for another day. The golden age of Islam, the fact that the areas that were under Islamic rule was experiencing an enlightenment, that was like kind of stopped at some point for multiple reasons, but that is completely true. Okay, it's just, but the thing is that the question Anne is asking is because of Islam. Well, it wasn't because of Moors in Islam. Well, it was because of Moors, but it wasn't because of Islam, right? I think I've answered this many times. Just like the Renaissance and Enlightenment, Age of Enlightenment in Europe was not because of Christianity. It was actually despite Christianity. It was a battle against Christianity. The so-called age of the Golden Age, right, that happened in the Middle East, was a semi-enlightenment moment that was progressing really fast, and both in the Middle East and in North Africa, and it was pretty serious. Like this was like, Spain and Iraq were the centers of learning for all things arts, scientific, poetry, philosophy, everything, right? Everything. And people who are denying that are letting their anti-Islam activism, get to their heads with like, and it was a real thing. It was the center of knowledge. Like, how English is now the international language of trade and science and everything in the world. It was Arabic back then. Okay, if you wanted to do science, you need to know Arabic back then. That's how central this is. The Arab Empire was to everything knowledge related, and it was incredibly progressive. The Islamic world back then was very, very tolerant of competing ideologies. Like they were like the amount of Jewish thinkers that were involved in the House of Wisdom in Baghdad and in Spain. Oh my God, in Spain, like Jewish and Muslim philosophers and thinkers were working side by side, and they honored each other. And it was very tolerant, very progressive. New ideas were constantly being introduced, and old ideas were constantly being challenged. I mean, a lot of them are ridiculous ideas by our modern standards, but they were completely like new and revolutionary and signs of progress for the standards of the time, right? So it was but just like the Renaissance was in Europe happened because of wealth, right? This is like a set of nations that had access to a lot of wealth, and when empires or nations get access to wealth, they start doing science and they start doing trade and they start doing poetry and philosophy, and they do, maybe a little bit less war, a little bit more architecture and art and stuff like music, stuff like that, right? So it just, there's a lot of money to be invested in activities like this, right? These people get patronages, and there's a lot of demand because people are like, demanding. People are sitting, and there's a lot of wealth for people to actually, not just for people to produce this kind of thinking, art or philosophy or science, but also people who have enough wealth to be able to set aside some time to appreciate it. Right? So it's not just the fact that there's a supply for it, there's also some demand for it, right? So this is not a sign of Islam having an influence on this enlightened paradise that it was for a time in um, North Africa and Spain and the Middle East. It was because of wealth, right? I mean, then again, the Industrial Revolution and the Scientific Revolution also led to the Age of Enlightenment. It creates a demand. It wasn't because of Christianity in Europe, and it wasn't because of Islam in the Middle East and North Africa and Spain. And when they say, okay, and then it continues saying, and this is a claim that I don't know how to respond to. And the Spanish preferred the Moors to their own kings and queens, as Muslims frequently say. I don't know if that's true, but I can imagine if, the Spanish kings and queens back then were pretty intolerant, right? I could see why they would be in favor of the Moors, where they were more accepting of, at that time, the European rulers were extremely intolerant, and it seemed like the Islam people within the Islamic world were very tolerant. So, and also they had a lot of wealth to pass around. So if that is true that they were more popular, I could see exactly why.
Hey guys, if you're a fan of Blasphemy and Sexy Callie, like me, then you need to be sure to subscribe to our newsletter, link in the description below. Because if you subscribe, we will send you a free copy of our Blasphemous Art ebook. And let me tell you, it is the tastiest blasphemy that you can find anywhere available today. And we are so generous with our blasphemy that we continue to send you more blasphemy every week. So make sure to subscribe, link in the description below.